Thank you for joining us on another episode of Popcorn for Breakfast with your wonderful co-host, Kirk.
Hello, hello.
I am your other co-host, Cam. Date of recording is Tuesday, June 8th? Yes?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Ooh, that was a close one. I have to say, this show is already off to an interesting start. For the first time ever, we'll give you guys a peek behind the curtain here. For the first time ever, Kirk and I were both early.
Yes, that's true. And by early, we mean about 12 minutes.
Oh, I think that's generous. I think that might be generous. Yeah, so we were slightly early to record, and it's apparently thrown off our whole vibe because we got to talking, and everything went haywire. I knocked something off of my my shelf here, trying to show Kirk my new dragon.
Yeah, and
it broke, and then Kirk tried to hang a poster and ripped some of the backing off of it. It was a whole thing, and
yeah, my shirt's messed up. Apparently, this is fun.
It just really went downhill fast, and then we ended up starting late. We got to the stream early for the first time ever, and ended up starting late. And so I always joke about how streaming feels like being shot out of a cannon, because it really does. And weirdly enough, this one feels more like that than the others, even though we were on time.
Yeah, we miscalculated how much time we had, because we were like, look at all this time we have. I mean, I went and I got some screws. I have Cam has this beautiful background, and so I had the poster. It didn't work out. I got my drill. I was ready to drill up my signs that I'm always playing with. No, I know,
but why now of all the times? You're like, hey, we got 10 minutes. Let's boogie. Let's do some power drilling.
It was going to be beautiful, everyone. I was going to have my 100 movie scratch off list here, and it's wonderful glare, and my popcorn sign, and my Sodi sign that looks all retro. I have none of these things now, and I have nothing to show for my hard work. It looks wasted. Is this the story of my life? I'm just
no. Don't overreact, okay? Let's reel it in. You can still hang all of those things. We've done countless episodes without them. We will do this one just the same, and then next week we'll bounce back, maybe just in time for spilled popcorn this weekend. I don't know.
Next week we'll just have to get here a little bit earlier to create a little bit more chaos and see what happens.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's the lesson. Actually, I think the real lesson here is never arrive early to anything, because it throws off your vibe.
I love being late.
It definitely threw off our vibe. So anyway, here we are. Thank you for being with us. If you're on the stream, thank you for being with us on a Tuesday night. If you're listening to the podcast, then it is at least Wednesday, June 9th. And it is Loki time. Today, the 8th, is Loki-Eve, or Loki-Eve?
Loki-Eve. It
Something
is Loki-Eve.
like that. Yeah. I was trying to come up with something creative there. It didn't really work, but Loki-Eve. Loki drops tomorrow on Disney Plus, or tonight. Disney Plus will 100% crash. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it always
100%.
does. I mean, we're over a year. We're like a year and a half into the Disney Plus ride here, and it still crashes when big things drop on a regular basis. So that'll be fun tomorrow. Whenever I wake up early for work to watch Loki and then can't, that'll be a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Always
when
is.
I
It's
stay
a
up
time-honored
until
tradition.
I'm going to stay up till 3 a.m. and wait. It's going to crash on me, and then I'll be very upset that I stayed up that late to not watch Loki.
You can't stay up till 3. The first episode is 51 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
So that means you'd be up until at least 4. And then, of course, it's going to crash. It just will. That's a fact.
I just want sleep tonight. I think that's a good choice. I think that's what I have to do for the podcast.
Hey, man, to each their own. To each their own. But yeah, very exciting. Loki's coming up. We've got a movie review for you this week of a huge blockbuster. Second week in a row with a big blockbuster. Last week was Cruella. This week we're doing A Quiet Place Part 2, as I like to refer to it. Kirk and I went and saw this guy in the theaters. We saw it together. It was fun. It felt like old times. It felt like the real world again. It was nice.
It was lovely. It was quite lovely.
Except for that guy in front of us with his cell phone ringer on. I kid you not. The movie is called A Quiet Place. Okay, so let's say you're one of these people who's a little blasé with the cell phone ringer in theaters. I would think that the title of the film and maybe the whole ambiance there would cause you to be a little bit more aware of the cell phone ringer. But no, he just left it on. It kept going.
He sure did for multiple times. And there's a scene very early on in this movie, spoiler alert, we're there, that there is a cell phone ring that really attracts the monsters.
Yes.
And we heard it, and I'm like, are they like alluding to like, is that going to happen? No, that was actually going to happen, but this person's phone went off, and I was like, what the heck, man? How dare you? They did turn it off. I saw them physically turn it off, but for like 3 rings, I was really annoyed at them.
Yeah, it was more than once, okay? And that's one time too many in my book. I just have to say. I'm not trying to be a movie snob, but like that is the rule. That is the one rule.
If you still leave your volume on for your phone in 2021, who are you?
My phone volume hasn't been on for 8 years.
That's right.
That's a fact. It has not. I don't even know what my ringtone is. I really don't.
They should just take that button away. Like, don't even give you the option. It just should always be on vibrate. That's it.
It just buzzes. Yeah. I mean, who needs anything else but that? So anyway, we're reviewing. All that is to say, we're reviewing A Quiet Place Part 2 this week. It's a review I'm very excited about. I think it's going to be a fun one. Hopefully, you guys have gotten a chance to see it. It is smashing box office records all over the board post-pandemic, so that's very exciting. And then we've got What's Poppin'. As always, we're going to kick off the show with What's Poppin' to get you guys caught up on the latest and greatest in movie and TV, like we always do. But before we jump into that, Kirk, there is something that came out over Memorial Day weekend I wanted to chat about because you and I are very big fans of this particular artist who released this thing. And we didn't get a chance to talk about it last week because we had a super packed episode. So I'm taking advantage of the lighter news week to chat about our buddy, our muse, our artist extraordinaire, none other than Mr. Bo Burnham, who had his name's Bo, Robert, if you will. He had a special come out over the Labor Day or Memorial Day. Wow, really jumping ahead. Memorial Day weekend called Inside, and it was his basically his COVID special, for lack of a better term. It's on Netflix. He did an entire comedy special inside a portion of his home. It's like detached from his house, basically, this like little recording studio that he has. And he did an entire comedy special in there. So we're going to talk about that. For those of you who aren't familiar with Bo Burnham, familiarize yourself. This guy is he's a one of a kind artist. Kirk, I mean, you've been following Bo Burnham since his early YouTube days. He was really one of the first guys to make it big off of just YouTube, like back in like 2008 or something.
Oh yeah,
like way back.
I would say maybe even 2006. That's a long time before 2008. Bo Burnham, he came out with these little videos. He's just sitting in his living room from wherever he was from. I did not look that up. And he's got his keyboard set up, and he's always sitting profile, keyboard ready, and he just sang all of these ridiculous songs that were just so no one sang like that. No one had like the gall to just like go for it. And he would intermix rap into his music, and it was satirical and it was truthful. And he was the same age as me. He's the same age as me, maybe 1 year less than I. And it was crazy. And he was doing this, and now he continues to do it. That's what's even more shocking, that he was one of the original like YouTube people, and he is still successful in exactly what he was doing back then.
Yeah, so he took 5 years off of comedy. I remember his last special, I think, was Make Happy on Netflix, which changed my life. That's not hyperbole. Like I just legitimately loved it. It's like one of those artistic pieces that just inspires you and like nestles itself into your soul, and you just live with it for a while. Like that was Make Happy for me, and I absolutely loved it. So I was chomping up at the bit to get a hold of this one, and I want to talk about Inside. So it's available to stream on Netflix for anybody who's eager to check it out. And Bo Burnham's comedy style, like Kirk said, it is sometimes shockingly honest, very like hyper transparent, but also like there's some social commentary in there. Oh, there's a lot of social commentary in there. There's a lot of self-awareness in there. There's lots of goofy singing and absurd jokes. That's sort of his style. But I want to get your take on this special because this is different. No audience, all him in a room. And I don't know that I've ever watched a comedy special that has no audience. So I want to get your take on the medium, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the content of this special.
Yeah, the medium itself was pretty brilliant. You don't see any other comedian doing this. So even though they very easily could, you hear about all the comedians that, these stand-up comics, what do they do without an audience? Well, they have literally a Zoom audience during the pandemic.
Yeah.
They've been in and out of Zoom rooms, like just doing crazy stuff, doing like corporate events. They were doing that before, but now they're doing Zoom corporate events to like lift people's spirits. Like that's gotta be really dull. So what Bo did, he's 30 years old. He turns 30. He records himself turning 30 in the special. He decided, I have nowhere to go. I have all these thoughts in my head. Well, let's talk about them and let me do what I do best, for better or for worse. And we get to see the good, the bad, the ugly, and quite frankly, some of the most hilarious moments. But I don't want to trick anybody because it's not it's not not going to hurt your side by the time you're done with it.
Right. Yeah. It's not by any means your traditional comedy special. In fact, I would say that the first time I've watched it twice now. The first time I watched it, I don't think I had an out loud laugh. Maybe one or two that just like caught me by surprise, but not in the same way of when you're watching a normal comedy special and you're kind of like in with the crowd and you're kind of like riding the wave. This was a very different experience. And his style, to your point, is really at the point of this was like experimental theater more so than it was like stand-up comedy as we know it. And it's interesting because Bo Burnham somehow remains ahead of the curve at a time when stand-up comedy is evolving rapidly, I think, because the medium has skyrocketed so much in the advent of Netflix. Netflix is a joke. They've sort of championed that art form of stand-up comedy, which is a very unique art form. But as a result, these specials have really started to evolve, and what you get now with these specials is a combination of like half documentary, half super long narrative, like I'm thinking of like Hannah Gadsby, Mike Birbiglia,
Jenny Slate.
Jenny Slate
very much like that.
Did that exact same thing. Yeah, exactly. But this was next level. I mean, this was totally different. This was a one-man show, complete with music as he always does, and it was a one-room show with him just doing all these different camera angles. And I think with his YouTube background, he is uniquely positioned to do something like this because he knows how to create content. And he knows how to do it himself, and he knows how to do it with one camera in one room with a bunch of different lights and keyboards. And I think he knocked it out of the park. I think it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, a lot of half-naked Bo Burnham. I did not expect that. I mean, if you think about it for like a half second, he's exposing himself. It's that simple. We never see a full nudity, which thank goodness. I don't want to see that on anybody. But we a lot of underwear, a lot of like whitey tighty or crew. What would you call that? Crew cut.
Like boxer briefs.
Brief style. Whitey tighty, but not white. Thank goodness. So there's lots of very very things that are in your face, and if you're not listening or watching correctly, you'll miss it and it'll go over your head. So when you watch this, we hope you do. Not for kids, any way, shape, or form.
No.
When you watch it, pay very close attention to what he's saying and more so how he's saying it. If it starts to offend you, because there are plenty of things I don't agree with lots of comedians, but you have to listen to, are they saying it for the delivery? Are they saying it for the message? Is there a combination? And Bo Burnham does that on such a different level. I love this man.
I know it's a good point because sometimes you do have to sort of like put yourself in a different mind frame. You have to approach it with a really open mind because there are times where he's saying stuff that's offending me, but then whenever I listen to him, he's working through it. He's simultaneously like saying, I need to be better, but also this is preposterous. He's like working through his mental process of like doing these things. Like he talks about at one point how he has this song about how he's problematic. And he's talking about how he wore an Aladdin costume when he was 17 years old.
Yes.
And he's like, yeah, it was weird. I shouldn't have done that. But then he's like, it's still in my parents' attic. What do I do? Should I burn it? Is burning it bad? Like what, So he's kind of like working through this process of like, he does feel bad for what he did, but he also like doesn't know what he's supposed to do. Is he supposed to be held accountable for that kind of stuff? Other people seem to be held accountable. It's just like, it is very raw. It is very honest, sometimes almost uncomfortably so, but it is like such a real, I don't know. It's like such a real look into the human experience and the things that we go through in this modern age. He has such an incredible way of like summing up in a weird way, like, and performing these thoughts that go through our head on a regular basis. It's pretty remarkable.
He's inspiring. He really is, because I watch his special Make Happy like now.
Same,
and knowing that it was 2016-ish when it happened, and I'm like, wait, how in the world? It's just, I don't know if he has a time machine or if he's got Marty McFly's World Almanac, but dude's on another level, and I'm here for it. It's really good.
He absolutely is. And that's why whenever I said we were going to talk about it, I called it in the title of the episode an ode to Bo Burnham, because that's really what this is. It's not a review. It's not a critique. It's just, this is must watch. This is must watch. And whatever you make of it, you make of it. And I think that honestly says more about you than it does about him. It's one of those really interesting pieces of art that I think everybody should check it out. So I wanted to make sure we took some time to talk about it. Also, if you did see it, or if you do see it as a result of this conversation, all these songs, this one is the most song-heavy special he's ever done, and they are totally stuck in your head forever. The good news is there's an album coming out later this week with all those songs, so you won't have to do what I've been doing and keep turning it on and rewinding to the Welcome to the Internet song and listening to it until it flies out of your head. I mean, that's pretty much torture, but you can just add it to your Spotify and work it out. So that'll be a good one.
Love it.
All right, that's Bo Burnham. That's an ode to Bo Burnham. We just had to do that. That was mostly for us. But hopefully you get a chance to check it out.
You think this is for you, ladies and gentlemen? This whole shindig is just for where you at? Just for me and this guy. No one else.
It's all just self-actualization and right. See, I'm stealing from Bo Burnham's book. This is all just self-actualization. What do they call that? Like narcissism, for sure.
Yes.
Out the wazoo, narcissism and insecurity is what this is. It's just all of that manifesting into content.
Yes, I would say it's 99% insecurities with a itty bitty little bit of narcissism and a need to perform for an audience. Right. But it's mostly insecurities. That's at least, I don't want to speak for you, but that's all that's coming.
And Bo would appreciate that, I think. He would. It's basically the exact same thing that he's working through. So we're all on the same playing field there. But that's Bo Burnham. Check it out. Either check it out on Netflix or check it out on Spotify, whatever you need to do. It's a must watch. Can we pop it up? I got some movie news to talk about.
Are you ready to pop it up? Say
I was born.
There needs to be a special command. I feel like a password,
Open Sesame,
or maybe a hat. Maybe you have to wear a special popcorn hat.
I think this hat that I'm wearing could be it.
No, I think there needs to be like a hat that like a fabric hat that you put on.
No,
and I'm like,
that.
Cam, are you ready to pop it up? You're like, yes, Kirk, I'm ready to pop it up. And you disappear from frame. And you come back and you put it on.
I don't like any of that.
I need your wife to make this. I feel like she can, Jackie, if you're
she
listening.
Definitely can.
I need you to make some sort of popcorn looking hat for Cam. And every time he asks to pop it up, he must say, Master Popper, can I...
All right, that's
and
enough.
I pop it up.
That's enough. That's enough out of you. I have clearly given you too much power at this point, because I started asking your permission to pop it up, and now it's this whole elaborate thing, and I just am not okay with it. I did not consent to this.
We have 3 episodes that drop throughout the week as a reminder, and now it's going to be 7 because I'm going to stretch this out as far as I can.
Daily, yes. Absolutely.
Yes.
All right. Speaking of things that we love, like Bo Burnham, let's talk about In the Heights. Can we talk about In the Heights?
Yes, we can.
All right, so we are now 2 days away from In the Heights dropping on HBO Max. They sort of like sneakily were like, oh yeah, now it's going to drop on Thursday. They were always saying it was the 11th, and now it's the 10th. So I'm not complaining, for the record. I'm happy about that. It will be live on HBO Max and in theaters. So check it out on one, check it out on both. Do whatever you need to do. It's going to be, I think, a big deal because it's from the mind of Lin-Manuel Miranda. And for those of you who have heard the musical, you probably know what's coming. I think if the movie happens to be successful, it's going to be massively successful. It's going to be one of those things, because the music is too good for them to not be successful if they happen to pull it off. So anyway, In the Heights, director John M. Chu dropped on Twitter/YouTube the first 8 minutes of this movie. So we got a chance to check it out. It's basically the entire opening number, which is called In the Heights, and sort of gives us an introduction to our main character, Usnavi, who's played by Anthony Ramos in the movie, as well as some of the supporting cast that will be coming in and out throughout the rest of the show. It's sort of that quintessential musical opening number, but we got a chance to see it in film magic form. Yes. Kirk, I have to get your thoughts on this first 8 minutes, and keep in mind we are going to be reviewing this movie next week, so that's a quick tease. So this is not, we may say that we think this movie is going to be good, and then next week we review it and we're like, oh my gosh, but this is strictly our thoughts on the first 8 minutes. All right.
Yeah, HBO has done this since HBO Max existed. They like tease you with all this stuff. Hands down, blows out the other teasers straight out of the water. Another thing I'd like to point out is that Cameron and I were telepathically linked at the time that this dropped. It dropped maybe around 10 o'clock or so.
Yeah, it
the
was
other
late,
night,
Sunday night. Yeah.
Yes. And you texted me about an hour before it came out. You saw the news. You said it's coming out. The teaser's coming. I was like, great. And I got a little busy, and then I watched it, and then I just finished it. And you picked up your phone and you texted me and you said, Kirk, here is the link to the first 8 minutes. And I said, I know. I've just watched it.
And I had just watched it.
That is the power of this film. I have been waiting for this since this musical came out. What's always been true for me, which won't be true ever again because of Hamilton, is that I've always stumbled upon Lin-Manuel Miranda. I was like, a hip hop musical? That's kind of weird. And I listened to it and I fell in love with it all the way back when it was on Broadway in its first original run. And the fact that I've been waiting that long for this film blows my mind. Those 8 minutes are so perfect. There's not a beat in that 8 minutes that is missed or wrong or weird or awkward. It is so on point, which is exactly what Lin-Manuel does. He plans everything to the second, to the beat, and every moment in the acting from every single person in this thing is just A class. If this thing doesn't get 100%, a 10 out of 10 kernels, something goes terribly wrong at some point in this movie, because that
the tone shifts drastically.
yes. I have a feeling it's going to be 10 kernels for me next week, or
a 10, Kirk, really a 10.
I'm thinking, or a 9.9999. I don't know. I've only given maybe 2 9.9s, maybe a 9.9. How
can you even say that after 8 minutes of a film? I don't know.
Did you watch it? What'd you think? Tell me.
I did, but I listen, I'm a professional, Kirk. I haven't even thought of my score for this movie yet because I haven't seen the whole thing yet. But here's what I'll say. The first 8 minutes are bomb. They are amazing.
Yes.
I thought, honestly, this goes back to whenever they first announced this movie was coming and they first announced that John M. Chu is going to be directing it. He is the director of Crazy Rich Asians, for those of you wondering. I think that's his biggest claim to fame. He's directed many other things, but that's the one that sticks out in my mind. And when I heard that, and I heard that Lin-Manuel was going to be more in an advisory role and like not going to star, and that Anthony Ramos was going to be the star of the movie, I was like, they are onto something here. They are onto something. And I think after seeing the first 8 minutes, I feel more strongly that they were, in fact, onto something, and they have a really great creative direction. And yeah, I would say if the plot develops well, and if it continues on that same tone, that same feel, and the music stays high quality, then it's going to be good. I think this is a good sign. But I'm very excited. I think more so than I have been yet. I'm very excited to get my hands on this movie, which is only 2 days away now. 2 days.
Yes. Some of the things that you guys need to look for when you watch it. First of all, watch Sunny. Okay, Sunny's doing like working on overtime in this. Who is arguably a tertiary character. Like he's not really front and center. He has some good one-liners, but ultimately he's not front and center in this. And in this, you just see the care that they've taken to make it such no one works without the other in this community. No one is successful or can even move or breathe or think without the other person's support. Everyone's in it. Watch Sunny specifically throughout this entire trailer, and you'll see what I mean. That he's the best example in this song of how the culture inside this little city, little town works in this bodega.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting. If you want to check out the first 8 minutes, I don't know. A lot of times they throw it on HBO Max. I haven't seen it on there yet, but it is on YouTube on the Warner Bros. YouTube page. That's the place to get it. And we also posted the link on Monday morning, so you can go to our socials and grab a look at that, which we would highly recommend ahead of our review next week,
where I will give it a 10 out of 10.
Kirk, you are incorrigible, my friend. Okay, next up. We're talking about it today, and there's even news. There's more news on A Quiet Place. We're talking about A Quiet Place Part 2 today, but there is news, Kirk, of a new A Quiet Place movie. And here's the kicker, okay? When this first got announced, everybody who was reporting it was saying A Quiet Place Part 3 coming out 2023, A Quiet Place Part 3. Everybody was saying that. Few days later, after people let this marinate, turns out Paramount's like, whoa, pump the brakes on the A Quiet Place Part 3 chatter. This is a spin-off in the A Quiet Place universe that will not be directed by John Krasinski or written by John Krasinski. I don't believe it's going to be written by him. It's actually going to be directed by an indie director, mostly indie director, named Jeff Nichols, who directed Mud. He directed Midnight Special. He directed Take Shelter. So this is very much within his sort of wheelhouse stylistically, but want to get your thoughts without spoiling anything about our thoughts on A Quiet Place Part 2, Kirk. Want to get your thoughts on a potential spinoff here. Yeah,
for me, it's a little Walking Dead, which is fine. But the story of A Quiet Place is so unique with how with its narrative and how it wraps around its characters. I guess Walking Dead does that too, very very specifically, but it seems too close to have a spinoff. So what I imagine is going to happen, I hope I'm not right, but it seems like if there's going to be a spinoff, we're going to go to another part of the world. We're going to see another family and how they react, or a community or a group of people, maybe a group of strangers, since we have an integral family who had strengths of their own in how they were already living their lives in order to adapt and survive this for as long as they could. So I'm a little hesitant to just think I'll like it. But that director's really good. And I don't think he'll sign on to anything without it being uniquely creative.
Yeah, it should be interesting. It is a big opportunity for him. I think it's a big opportunity for Paramount, who probably feels like this is new territory for them recently, to have a franchise that's really sort of like taking off, that's in this genre. It's very different from what they've got in the rest of their portfolio. So I think dollar signs are definitely lighting up in the Paramount executives' eyes, and who could blame them there? But I'm intrigued. You brought up The Walking Dead. By all, for all intents and purposes, A Quiet Place is a zombie movie. Okay, there's not an ounce of difference really between the zombie genre and A Quiet Place. It has all the genre tropes. It has all of the, it plays by a lot of the same rules that world does. The only difference is the threat, which we've seen zombies take many different forms too. Running zombies, zombies that can't eat sick people, zombies that are afraid of fire. Yeah, exactly. This is very much of that same ilk, but I think that I think because of that, it has potential to succeed, but also because of that, it has potential to be a stinker. So it'll be one of those wait and see things. But I think ultimately excited to see more from this universe, because if they can make it great, I think it has potential, a lot of potential. So should be interesting.
I just I hope that John Krasinski still gets paid for it, no matter what it is.
Well, I mean, I think that. I mean, he wrote and directed the original, and he wrote and directed this one. So I have to assume that being a savvy person in this business who's been around for a little while, he's kept some ownership over the intellectual property, despite giving the rights to Paramount and stuff. But we'll see. We'll see. We're going to hear more from Mr. Krasinski. I'm fairly certain in terms of his directing career.
The way you said that, it almost made me think like you somehow knew him and that he was like about to like sneak into frame and be like, "Hey, how's it going, guys?"
I have a sneaking suspicion that Mr. Krasinski, he just pops up.
I would have lost my mind.
Me too. Actually, I would have been shocked. I would have been absolutely floored. Unfortunately, no, I don't know him yet. I don't know him yet, but that day is coming.
It's coming.
All right. Next up, we're talking sequels, we're talking spin-offs, we're talking movie universes, and the next big story of a movie universe is we're getting a Cruella sequel, hot off the presses. Disney decided to cash in the great reviews that we and others in the industry have given Cruella, and the stellar box office numbers, what I assume are pretty good Disney Plus Premier Access numbers. They decided to cash that in and let everybody know there's a sequel on the way to Cruella. Kirk, having seen the first one now, what's your take on the sequel? Let me ask you this. Were you expecting a Cruella sequel, or were you more so expecting a 101 Dalmatians live action remake?
That is a fantastic question. I expected more the 101 Dalmatians live action first. Yeah. And who knows, maybe we'll get it first. I don't know. But as I sat and thought about it more, a Cruella 2 makes sense because we've seen all the way up to right before the 101 Dalmatians lifetime, right? Maybe we'll get kind of a Wicked status, right? Where she does a few more terrible, evil things, goes through another trial in her life to become a little bit more evil and a little bit more Cruella-ish, and maybe it leads like halfway into or all the way into 101 Dalmatians. I say that because, there's that scene of her at the fountain where she's talking to her mother and basically saying goodbye to Estella. But then she goes back and forth. She's like, "I am Cruella, but I love you. But I am Cruella. But Mom, I love you. You took care of me." So she has to shed some more of her humanity, and she needs, I think, one more movie to do it. So I'm in on it. And I'd also like to take this platform to say that I would like to change my score on Cruella.
Oh my goodness. Oh my, Kirk.
I got to bump it up one kernel, one full kernel. I gave it a 6 last week, and it's weighed heavy on my heart, and I'm giving it a 7 now.
Wow. Wowzers. Yeah. You do not hear that every day, I'll just say. No. In fact, I don't know that it's ever happened. I think that I have once before noted on the podcast that I regretted a score. Mm-hmm. I think it was for Ford versus Ferrari or something.
I think so. Mm-hmm.
But wow, that's big. That's unprecedented. That's unprecedented. But I stand behind you and I support you.
Thank you.
After all, these scores are totally ours and totally made up and subject to change at any time. It's written in the fine print. You people should know that.
When you do post prod, can you like scroll like a lorem ipsum, but just with one sentence?
Yeah. I need to do like one of those. I need to hire one of those really fast talking people. Yeah. Views expressed in this podcast.
I think you should do it.
I think I should. I was going there. I should have just kept it rolling.
Oh man.
Yeah. But listen, I support you. I'm with you all the way on that.
Thank you.
So good for you. Way to speak your truth, Kirk. I really respect you for it.
Thank you.
Here's my take on the Cruella sequel. I feel like maybe this is 101 Dalmatians live action. Maybe they're calling it Cruella 2 because people just know that like a sequel to that movie is coming. But like, unless they go, to your point, full Wicked, and maybe they do like, but not a prequel. They just do 101 Dalmatians fully from Cruella's perspective. That could be interesting.
Yes.
I don't know, but if it has Emma Stone, I'm in it, because I totally thought this was going to be a stinker for her, and I thought this was going to be a huge mistake, and she turned in an incredible performance and totally roasted me and showed me. So I'm in. I have to be all in at this point because I have no reason not to be.
Excellent.
All right, moving right along. We got a couple of quick hitters. One, I'm gonna pull up this trailer real quick for this wild movie that I just hand up had not heard about.
Is it Spirited Untamed?
It's not Spirited Untamed. Okay, I had heard about that. I had heard about it. And I think that's in theaters right now. Yeah,
it is in theaters. You cannot stream it anywhere yet. It is in theaters.
Okay. Well, this movie snuck up on me, and it's called Reminiscence, and it's starring Hugh Jackman, Rebecca Ferguson, and Thandui Newton of Westworld fame, and many other. She's been in 1,000 million things, and this is from the co-creator of the Westworld show, and this movie is like a futuristic. Again, it's called Reminiscence. It's coming out later this year. It's kind of like an Inception vibe to it. It's like future state, but Hugh Jackman is like a private investigator by the looks of it, who like goes into people's memories to like figure things out. Totally interesting vibe. It almost seems like it's like in this like almost like steampunk like future reality, but this trailer totally caught me off guard, and I had to get your thoughts on it. What do you think about this movie? Are you intrigued?
100%. I mean, there have been some futuristic movies that Hugh Jackman tried his hand at that were absolute garbage. So when you posted this, I had no idea it was coming.
Real Steel, is that what you're talking about?
Real Steel is exactly what I'm talking about.
I was picking up what you were laying down.
For copyright purposes, we will be bleeping that out at post-production as well. But and there's like a little bit of Minority Report, like that little kind of flash right there, right? Like it's futuristic. I see Blade Runner in this. I see spy movies. I see James Bond. I see Sam Mendes direction in here. I just see everything. It's so intriguing. Christopher Nolan's in here. The whole works. I love whoever did this. I haven't even looked it up because I want to be surprised by this because it was such a surprise to me already. What a treat this is. Like, I hope everyone, when you get done watching our episode, go watch this trailer. It's just absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah, I agree. I was totally taken aback by this trailer. I was like, whoa, this looks cool. This is an interesting concept. Plus, it's like Hugh Jackman, and I loved this. This has a prestige vibe to it as well, because again, it's very Chris Nolan feel, and he was incredible in that movie. And I don't know, early returns on this thing make me think that it's going to be really good. So I'm excited to see what this is, and excited to see when it comes out, just kind of like what the direction is, because the concept has me absolutely hooked. So we'll for sure be talking about Reminiscence a little bit more as we get closer to it. I think it'll be one to keep an eye on. I really do. Though that word Reminiscence, near impossible to spell. I just have to say, no. I was trying to like hashtag it, which like why? I don't think people are tweeting much about it, but just yet. But I really struggled. I just have to say. And
how to reminisce? Why Reminiscence? I guess that's because of the participle that it needs to be. I don't know. I got nothing.
We'll find out.
Lisa Joy. Lisa Joy is the director. Who is this?
Yeah, she's the Westworld co-creator. The Westworld TV show co-creator. She's
a writer on Pushing Daisies and a producer on Burn Notice.
Yeah, she's been around. She's done some cool stuff. I think this is her time to shine. And I don't know. I'm kind of buying it right now. I'm buying what she's selling.
I want all of this. I am so excited to see where this goes. What do we know when this comes out? Because I want it now.
Yeah, it's coming out later this year. I can't remember exactly. Hold on, let me pull it up.
Oh, there it is. August 20th.
Yes, because it's the same day as Paw Patrol. Because this trailer came out the same day as the Paw Patrol trailer, which we weren't talking about. Luckily, outside of me and you, who will for sure be seeing both, I don't feel like the audience crossover between Reminiscence and. Like, I feel like that section on the Venn diagram would be pretty thin.
Well, here's what I'm worried about, Cam. You've seen TV shows, it's a TV trope, tried and true. It always works where you have the protagonist and they need to be at 2 movies at the same time, at the same showing.
True. Yep.
Are we going to be running between Paw Patrol and Reminiscence?
Yeah,
when
it's
this
going to be
out?
like we had a commitment to go see Reminiscence for the podcast, but I had a commitment to go see Paw Patrol with my family, and so I'm going to be doing like the Drake and Josh thing where it's like,
yes,
oh hey, I got to go to the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back. And they're like, yeah, I could see that. I could really see that.
And then you start like you go back and forth. You get back to Paw Patrol, back to the family, and you're like, "What's Nick Bannister doing?" Which is Hugh Jackman's character's name. And Jackie looks at you and says, "Nick Bannister? Isn't that the character in Reminiscence?"
We're talking about Mayor Humdinger here.
That's right. And you say, "Oh no!" You sink into your seat, and then the trope goes on. Yes,
Yeah,
I could see this happening.
I could definitely see it.
I'm excited to see us pull that off.
That's a real concern. That's a good point that you brought it up. I'm glad we have a few months to prepare for that scenario. So we'll do our best. All right. I promised you quick hitters. Here are the real quick hitters. First one, Christina Ricci has been cast in The Matrix 4. If ever there was a person whose aura exuded The Matrix, it was Christina Ricci. It's shocking that they've made 3 of these films so far, and she has not been cast in any one of them. That is a crime, and I'm glad that they've corrected it.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, she might as well be Keanu Reeves' sister. I mean, maybe that's it. Maybe she is.
Maybe she is.
Is there a like they love twins? They love twins, right? So I can see this happening.
Right. It's the Wachowskis. They could do a little art imitates life type thing. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Oh, I see what they're doing. We cracked the code on everything. We're always
Done.
right.
We've already spoiled the movie. It's not even out. Next quick hitters, staying with Keanu, but going to a different film franchise. John Wick 4 has cast Bill Skarsgård, who is Pennywise from It and who haunts my dreams on a regular basis. Every night, really. And also, he's been cast in the film. Don't know what the role is. I'm hoping it's not something demonic and scary. I don't think I can handle that. But the other person who's been cast, and I am so excited, is Donnie Yen, who is a martial arts movie extraordinaire. He was in the Ip Man franchise. He was most recently in Mulan, which we just saw late last year. He's perfect for this franchise. I mean, just perfect. It's going to be. I'm so excited. I cannot wait to see his combat in John Wick style, with the colors, the lighting. Oh man, the slow-mo. I can see a rain fight. There's definitely going to be a rain fight going on. I cannot wait. It's going to be great.
Yes, and I think we need to have a John Wick marathon right up into the 4th one when it premieres. I hope you're down for that.
Definitely down. I'm always down for John Wick, so that's going to be great.
Wonderful.
That's all we got for What's Poppin'. Let's pop it up one last time. All right, moving right along, and now we move into our movie review. It is my turn to synopsis this week, and we do not have a game or a schoolyard pick this week, so just the movie review, and then we'll get out of your hair. All right, sound good? We'll be in and out, no time flat. Of course, in the history of this podcast, every time I've said that something would be quick, it usually takes 2 hours, so that might not bode well for the length of this review, but we'll just see. Only time will tell. So the movie we're reviewing this week is called A Quiet Place Part 2. It is, of course, the sequel to the 2018 surprise smash hit A Quiet Place, written and directed by John Krasinski. As I said earlier, if you listen to the last part, John Krasinski directed and wrote this one as well, and also was in it. I don't know if people knew that. I did not. I somehow did not know that there were... I avoided all trailers. I had no idea Killian Murphy was in this movie. I had no idea John Krasinski was coming back for this movie. So there's lots going on there. General premise for this movie is that it picks up right after the events of A Quiet Place Part 1. All of the movie picks up after that, with the exception of one long opening scene, which picks up on day 1 of the incident when these supersonic hearing beasts come into play, which is a really interesting scene. I'm sure we'll talk lots about it. But the rest of the movie takes place after the events of A Quiet Place 1, which of course saw our protagonist, Lee Abbott, John Krasinski, pass away, sacrifice himself for his family to the great beasts. And so that's sort of where we're at. So at the end of A Quiet Place 1, they kind of pick up on the fact that what's her character's name? Millicent Simmonds.
Is it Rebecca?
No.
Reagan. They never say that.
I was gonna say, do they do they ever say her name?
I don't think they ever say her name.
I don't know that they do. Anyway, at the end of the first one, they pick up on the fact that her hearing device that she uses, because she is deaf, that frequency that it puts out is like killer to the monsters. And so the new plan is to find some way to use that to their advantage. So in the early going, she's like using an amplifier, but then what ultimately ends up being the plot of the movie is that their goal is to broadcast this over the radio and hopefully eliminate a good chunk of the monsters so that life can return to normal. So that's basically the premise. Runtime is 1 hour and 30 minutes, real short and sweet, like scary movies sometimes are. And that's about it. Anything I left out, Kirk?
No, it's wonderful. I'm looking at the character names here, and so John Krasinski plays Lee, Emily Blunt plays Evelyn, Millicent plays Reagan, Noah Jupe, Marcus. I never knew any of that.
I knew Lee because I think Emily Blunt's character Evelyn, who I'm just now learning that, she says it in this movie, and she also says it in the first movie.
Yeah,
but I don't know about the rest of it. That's all news to me. It honestly is.
I'm just
why even name them at that point?
The one thing that I love, and again, like you said, this is going to be so quick that we'll be out of here in like 2 minutes, is that looking at their names written down, we have Lee and we have Evelyn. A vague part of my memory is thinking that he does call her Eve at some point.
Eve. Yeah, sure.
And
sure.
when you ready for this? When you put their names together, Lee and Eve, leave.
Wow.
It's crazy.
What about Marcus and Reagan?
Regmar. Also, I'm glad I didn't say this out loud because I was looking at the first letter, because I'm like, okay, leave. That's got to be on purpose. So then I was looking at it and say, oh, what if the first letter spells something every time? So then we've got Lerm. And I was going to say learn, but that is incorrect. It's lerm.
You were going to say learn.
Learn how to survive.
What's the baby's name?
Oh gosh, I don't
know. We don't need to get into that.
It's also Lee. Lermal. So Lermal.
This is really, I'm having trouble unscrambling that one. But we'll get there. We'll figure out. It probably has some sort of clue.
Lemur, if you will.
Yes, good. All good points, Kirk. So let's talk about A Quiet Place Part 2. Let's start, as we always do, with our acting superlatives. The first one goes to our best actor in the movie, and this is called The Oscar Goes To. The best actor in this movie, for me, is none other than Miss Emily Blunt. I find myself increasingly in awe of her talents. I think she does a great job in these movies. I think that the character build from the first movie to the second one was just gradual enough, because it obviously picks up right after. But her in the opening scene of this movie, like I said, which takes place in the past, she didn't play the same character. She was way more in her element, and it was interesting to see that. And I loved that coming out in her performance and seeing all of that. I think, I don't know, it must be incredible to be directed by your spouse, because, and I don't really want to I don't know. I got to be careful how I say this. I got to be careful. But she positively glows in these movies. She has got the sweaty post-apocalyptic aesthetic down, and I have to think that's because her husband is behind the camera being like, all right, this is the right lighting. He knows his wife, and he's like, this is how she needs to look, and it's great. It's a great look. It really is.
It is true, because you would be, someone might be angry, right? If your wife was lit that well by another director, you'd be like, what the heck was that guy doing?
What's going on here?
Hold on. In one scene, we see Killian Murphy actually put his hand over Emily Blunt's mouth. And I'm like, dude, I don't know how he didn't jump across the camera and punch him. I know he scripted it and choreographed it, but you're absolutely right. There's something you see them in a much different way because like all of their truths, right?
Yeah,
As their
exactly.
spouse. So everything you're saying is exactly right. To be able to put the absolute best performance and best option, best take on there, it's a duo that you can't break. That's awesome.
I know it's just next level, and I think that comes out in her acting performance too. I just really feel like they both have an understanding of what her peak is and like what
Yes.
an honest performance for her looks like. So yeah, getting the best take, getting everything right. And I think her just knowing that this is a passion project for both of them, being a couple, they both share ambitions, and this is no doubt one of them because they're in this together. And so I think that all comes out. I think the fact that it's like a passion project, I feel like this is her best performances, and it's not dialogue heavy, but it doesn't have to be to give a great acting performance. And I feel like she's just absolutely stellar in both of these movies. So I tip my cap to Miss Emily Blunt, who I thought was just excellent.
Beautiful choice. I would have said if we had reviewed the A Quiet Place, the OG, the original, I would have said it goes to her in that one, hands down, without question. So I applaud you giving it to her in the second one. There is a depth between just showing who she was before this and how she maintained that level of self throughout. But then added survival and went to those primal instincts in us to say, I'm going to take care of my son, my daughter, my husband, my other son, rest in peace, and now my new son, right? So it's crazy. I have to say, with all of that, this was a very difficult choice, but I leaned towards Millicent Simmonds, who plays, apparently her character's name is Reagan in this. I knew her first name was Millicent. So in my head, I was like, wow, Millicent's doing a really good job. This is great.
Right.
She really did a wonderful job in the first movie. And I hate to keep comparing them, but it is nice to compare growth between movies too. I mean, that just comes with it because everyone, they love to mark up like, what was better, the first one or the second one, when you start getting a trilogy going on. But this one will not be.
I mean, you can't talk about a sequel without talking about its predecessor. I feel like that's par for the course.
Thank you for digging me out of my hole. Millicent is an actual deaf actress, but that shouldn't define her because what you see in this film is that she can tell a story. She can dig into like the deepest of emotional expression, regardless of who she is and what situation she's in. I cannot wait to see more of this young woman in other films because there's one scene in particular that is so inspiring where Killian Murphy is ready to give up. They've been attacked. They're under. He wants to leave and she says, no, I'm not going. You can't take me back to my mom. I have to do this. I know that I'm here for this. He said, you can't do this. Nothing can do it. And just the way she inspires him is just heartbreaking in a way because you see his self-doubt and just so powerful because she says, I don't care. I'm going to do this. I know I can do this. And I think you can too. So you can come with me and fulfill your destiny or not. That's fine. I'm going to go take care of what I need to take care of. The nuances that she puts into that scene are just so unique, so mature for any level age of actor. That's what won it over when we saw that specific scene in the movie. I knew it had to go to her. So Millicent Simmonds.
Love it. I love the pick. Yeah. I don't know if it's the same scene, but where she tells Killian Murphy, I don't know any of these characters' names. I don't know if they just don't mention it or what. But
what's his name? Oh gosh,
I think they do mention his name, but it's totally flown out of my head.
That's what we should have had a quiz. That should have been the game. Name the character.
Oh, I would have gone 0 for 5. I think
Emmett. His name is Emmett, as it's
Emmett. Yeah, that's right. They do say that. They do say Emmett. I'm so sorry. Yes. Anyway, she tells him, "You weren't able to do enough for your family. Now you have a chance to do it. Now you have a chance to help."
That's the scene. That's the scene.
The way she delivers that is like, ooh, right in the heart. And the way that it develops his character is like his character actually develops more in that scene than hers, but she is the vehicle for that development with her incredible acting. Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, scene stealer, who was the the surprise, the showstopper acting performance that sort of stole the scenes, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Late on us.
Killian Murphy. Killian Murphy for me. I have been following this guy's career for a long time. Red Eye is one of the first movies I can remember seeing him in. He sort of got some play in that like weird thriller genre for a while. Still does apparently because he's in A Quiet Place Part 2. He was Scarecrow in the Dark Knight trilogy from Chris Nolan, and he was also Tommy Shelby or still is Tommy Shelby in Peaky Blinders, I guess. Maybe. I don't know. I sort of fell off that show, but that's what he's best known for. This guy is just outrageously underrated as an actor. I think he's one of the best around. I will watch anything that he's in. What makes him a stellar casting choice for this movie is that his number one attribute as an actor is that he has the ability to tell a story with his eyes. Mm-hmm. In a lot of ways better than most people. I mean, the dude can just really express with his eyes and tell a story. And in a movie where there are so many scenes where you have to be quiet, or even he has plenty of scenes where his face is covered by mask, like a neck gaiter or a mask. I mean, it's perfect because he just wins with that stuff. And his character has an outrageously good arc. We'll talk more about it. I think his character's arc is stellar and a great addition to this film. But it wouldn't be half as successful without him in the role, I don't think, because he brought so much. He really did. He brought so much to it. And I was, at every turn, I was blown away by him and his ability to just come into this role and play a really complex character and have whole scenes where he is the star of the show. I thought he was excellent.
Excellent. Mr. Killian Murphy is also my scene stealer.
Yeah, buddy.
It's just that simple. There is a moment you talked about his character arc. There's a moment. This more so goes towards John Krasinski's liking as a director, but there is a mise en scène moment. If you haven't heard us talk about mise en scène, it's the placement of the object in the film and why it's where it's at. Right. So in this case, it is Killian Murphy. He is the object, and it's he's on the island. They escape right to the island, or they run for their lives rather. And it turns around him because he's willing to accept, oh my goodness, there is a safe haven throughout all of this craziness. And we got here and she was right. The kid, Millicent, Reagan, whatever, she was right. And so we see this full pan as he's looking out at the ocean. It comes around him. Literally, he turns his life around as the camera goes around him. I loved it. It was perfect. John Krasinski, it is a home run. Thank you for being a diligent, studious man of film and acting and writing. So what Killian Murphy does throughout the rest of the film, he struggles up until that, and then he knows exactly what he wants to do in every moment that he's trying. Every choice he makes is to get Millicent to that radio station so she can broadcast that frequency and blow these things up, these aliens of sorts. So it really is wonderful the way he shifts, much like Emily Blunt, like you said, she has a shifting character. Killian does as well. So I love him.
Great choice. Love it. We'll talk Pee Your Pants Meter too. I forgot to mention that at the outset. We'll talk Pee Your Pants Meter. This is technically a scary movie, thriller, whatever. So we'll go scale of 1 to pee your pants. We'll talk about that at the end.
Yes.
That way you guys know if you need to wear a diaper when you go see this movie in theaters. I think that's important information to have.
Popcorn for breakfast, sponsored by Depends.
That's right. Hey, you never know. You got to be prepared. All right, let's move to Showstopper. This is the thing that this is the piece of the movie that's like, whoa, amazing. This is the takeaway. For me, when you talk about horror, you talk about thriller movies, they only go as far in terms of effect as their set pieces. And what I mean when I say that is, in a horror movie, you can't keep the tension the entire time, right? You have to bring it down so that people can catch their breath, so that when you bring it back up, it's like people's hearts are pounding out of their chest. That's what you have to do from a story perspective. That's what you have to do from a style perspective. this movie is short, like most horror movies are, because of that exact reason, that ability to keep the tension throughout. Most horror movies are a little bit shorter in runtime. And so there's one big giant set piece in this movie where Noah Jupe's character is left in the bunker with the baby and has to keep the baby alive. The Emily Blunt character is out trying to get oxygen tanks for the baby because they have to keep the baby in a box so that it won't be heard. So they have to put, oxygen mask on it. And Killian Murphy and Millicent Simmonds are on this dock trying to get on a boat, and they're like in this sketchy situation. That set piece was wonderfully edited, executed, acted, all of it, just perfect. They build it up real slow. They start showing long scenes of each person and the situation that they're in. Mm-hmm. As this is going on, it's getting dark for everybody, which is signifying that this is all happening simultaneously. And the scenes keep getting shorter and shorter as the tension builds. And man, what an effect! What an effect that it has. And when that set piece reaches the climax point, your heart is beating out of your chest. It's insane. And there's all this stuff happening so fast. It feels like everybody's going to die in the movie at one time. And then it resolves in a way that you couldn't have predicted, and in a way that is just so masterfully done. I was blown away. I wanted to stand up and clap, but I didn't want to because it was back to being quiet again, and people would have been like, that's weird. But it was seriously... It was so well done. It really was the big moment in the film, and I thought they crushed it from an execution standpoint. I really loved it.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful, beautiful. My showstopper goes into the intelligence and the trusting of the audience. We have lots of movies where they beat you over the head, like, look at this, look at that, point you in this direction. You need to be subtly pointing people in those directions. And things as simple as getting into that big tank and having a stopwatch that they never explain why they have a stopwatch. Well, of course, it's so that they can time their oxygen before they pass out, right? They never say it out loud. They never say it out loud, and they never have to. So the script writing there and the choice to omit that is brilliant, because I'm not dumb. I can see what's in front of me as long as you let me see it. And he let us see it, and we could feel that. And with that, it was, in a way, it was more ambiguous even, because it wasn't hitting you over the head, because then you had to figure it out. It was brought to you several times, and then you're like, is that what he's timing? Like when they get there, are they timing the aliens? And then you see Noah Jupe, you're like, this is it. He was running out of air. And all the pieces form together in your head in a more creative way than you could ever have put it together in words. So the intelligence and the trust that John Krasinski had for his audience throughout the entire film, that was just one small example. That has to be called out for Mr. John Krasinski and creative team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that scene is a great example, but it just, like you said, it goes throughout the entire film. Like they even around that same piece, they show that there's a rag on the door, and you're like,
yes,
what's that for? Is it for the sound, or is it so that the door doesn't close? And then later you're like, oh, it's so the door doesn't lock while they're inside of it. You figure it out. Which is, it's important. I think I honestly, as someone who doesn't direct films, I would say that as someone who absolutely loves film, that trusting your audience is the number one thing you have to do. You have to. And obviously with anything, you have to do it in moderation. There are sometimes you got to bring people along for the journey, because not everybody can see your full vision. But this had the perfect balance. I think it's a great call. Let's move into director's shoes and talk about the things that we would have changed, or some notes that we have for Mr. Krasinski. Man, I got to say, the narrative here was so close to being perfect. Really, I mean that, perfect. I really thought the narrative for this film was really close to being top-notch, but he didn't have the courage to kill Emmett. He didn't have the courage to kill Killian Murphy's character, which had to be done, in my opinion. It was, they built the arc to that exact way. So his arc is, okay, kids died. What, day one of everything going down? His kids died, right? Yeah. Then his wife died 11 weeks ago. He couldn't save either of them. This turned him into someone who was cynical, someone who lived with tons of regret, someone who was broken, just completely broken. And that leads him to turn away Emily Blunt and family when they arrive, before he is, persuaded by Emily Blunt to go save his daughter, to go save her daughter. And he goes through this incredible growth of like realizing, okay, I have a chance to make amends. I have a chance to do something, to be useful, to get all this regret off my back, to help other people because I failed to help my family. And, I left so many people hanging. And he does it. He completes the mission. He goes with Millicent. He's completed the mission, and he's a guy with no other ties to this earth. He's got nothing. And yet he gets hit by the monster, but he doesn't die. And I'm like, you have to kill him. Finish the story. Give us the slow-mo scene. Give us the emotion. I wanted it. I wanted the emotion. I wanted the tears streaming down my face. I feel like it would have delivered, and I feel like it was the only way to wrap his arc. Now, the caveat, which is a small one, is that this is an ongoing series.
Right.
So there could be more for our character later, and that's why I can't go too hard here. But I really feel like, for my money, I'm killing him. I'm killing him to wrap up the arc and really tell this beautiful story, because I think it would have been a great theatrical moment.
Yeah, I love what you said. You kept saying regret and stuff. It reminds me of Inception, that line. I had to pull it up so I can get it right. Like, don't you want to take a leap of faith or become an old man filled with regret, waiting to die alone? And he was filled with regret and waiting to die alone. He was just waiting for those things to get through to him, try as he might. But yeah, it's true. There really was a perfect moment. Several, actually. He had several opportunities to sacrifice himself, and none of them were taken. So, not that I want to ever see Killian Murphy die, even when he's a bad guy. I just want to see him succeed in life. But there really was lots of argument to just off him. Including my showstopper, right? Like, turned his life around, done. The moment when he tells her to dive, I had forgotten all about that.
So
that happened
good.
at the beginning of the movie. I'm like, yes! It was so good, so well constructed. Would have been beautiful, John, to kill Killian Murphy. My director's shoes is, there is which is often my director's shoes, but it's so important, especially in a movie that's an hour and 36 minutes, I believe is the total runtime on this, is that you cannot have anything that is unintentional, or drag out, or just linger, unless that is part of the storytelling. And let me tell you, in Quiet Place, the original, there are no moments of error. There are no moments of boredom or of ambiguity. There is some ambiguity here in this film. It lasts 10 minutes, but man, in a movie where you're building tension, your whole goal is to pop that bubble, just like you talked about, Cam, in crescendo and decrescendoing the stress of the audience, to get them to that catharsis. There's about 10 minutes, maybe 12, 15. I should have turned my stopwatch on, but it leaves you sitting there saying, why are we still talking about this? I actually like kind of spaced out, and that's when I caught myself like, this is weird. It comes about 3/4 into the movie. A lot of it is happening on their journey. Now, and I can't even remember it because it's like out of my head. When I watch it back, I know I'm gonna be like, this is where it starts and this is where it ends. I think Emily Blunt is walking with Killian somewhere, it's when she's discovering that her family is dispersed and that Millicent is not with Noah Jupe. It's that whole sequence. It takes so long to get there, and there are lots of moments in there where we get that trust expressed to us, right? Like hiding in the water. He can't hear me, right? But they're like 6 shots in a row of the sprinkler head. It's like, yeah, you're gonna bust that, go ahead and bust it. It just lingers there, and it doesn't need to linger. It wasn't suspense building, it was kind of annoying, and there's some back and forth there where Emily Blunt looks great in what she's conveying, in her stress of, oh my goodness, I've lost all of my kids now. I get that could have been condensed. It really could have. So
Yep.
that part bothered me a lot. I'm sorry, John. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's a good call out. It's a good call out. All right. I think we've talked about most of what we wanted to talk about in the movie. Let's go to final thoughts and scores. I'm going to give this movie a really favorable score. I thought that it was really well done. I thought it was it was close to being as good of a sequel as it could have been. And for the most part, it really was well executed. Man, I leave this movie just overcome with just respect for John Krasinski and what he's doing. This movie, he was dropping a lot of nuggets, and this guy is a real man of cinema. To be honest with you, he's given nods to Spielberg all over the place. There are pretty overt Jaws references. There's camera work that references Jurassic Park, where you kind of like see the thing in the background before the character does, and it's coming towards them. I mean, this was all over the place. The boat scenes were totally Jaws. The way that he deals with his creature is very similar to how Spielberg was. I mean, it was just it was all over the place, and it's really cool to see all those. You're watching this movie and you're seeing all these different directors' tricks that you've seen from the greats throughout the years. You're seeing it in his directing style, and it creates something altogether new, which is exactly what you want as someone who loves film. You want to see things change and evolve and people to make it part of their identity, and John Krasinski is doing all of that. I think the opening scene to this movie that's set on day one of the incident was ambitious and incredible. I thought that they really pulled it off. And I have to say that with a scary movie, once you've seen the monster, particularly if it's a monster movie and it's a monster of extraterrestrial or just like something that doesn't really resemble much of what we see on Earth, it can be hard to maintain the fear. Like once you see it, it's like, oh, it's just that's outrageously fake, and I'm not scared of that. But he came up with a lot of really creative ways to build that tension, to keep you afraid, to keep you on the edge of your seat and ready for thrills. So the execution was really spot on. I think there are a few things from a narrative perspective, like I mentioned, that could be tightened up, but the acting, the vision, the execution, it's all really well done. I'm giving it an 8.9 out of 10 kernels. Yes, sir.
It's a beautiful score. It has a beautiful score. All those things. I want to watch this movie back. I want to watch the first one back, which I had seen less than 24 hours before we went to the theater. The first one I'd watched for the first time, I should say, before we saw the second one. It'd be really cool to just talk with John Krasinski and hear about all the different nuances that were planned, and the nuances of the film that just came to light, that just kind of fit once they were actually filming. You're exactly right how he fits in all of these inspired directors, and it's quite a feat. It really, really is. I'm just awestruck by what he's accomplished. I mean, your boy started out as an intern on Conan O'Brien years and years and years ago, left there. 3 years later, he's on the #1 television show in America, and one of the shows that will survive the test of time, The Office. Jim Halpert, John Krasinski. I am baffled by your intelligence, and I don't know what's coming next, and I can't wait to see it. I was giving that face because 8.9 was also my score for this.
Oh my gosh.
It's been a while since our scores have matched, and specifically to the decimal. Wow. 8.9. It's pretty freaking cool. It tells you sometimes it tells you that how exact and how precise a film can be. Otherwise it talks to subjectivity and preference, but this one, 8.9 out of kernels, hands down. Fantastic movie. Go and see this in the theater.
Yeah, I mean, it was tiptoeing that line into the 9 territory.
It was.
And that's rarefied air. That's like those are the movies that are reserved for like ones that end up on your shelf. And well, even there, I mean, I got some 6s and 7s and 3s on my shelf, let's be honest. But that's like the Pixar movies almost always end up in the 9s because you can't find bad things to say about them. And so you're like, well, it's a 9. But really, those are the really, really good movies, and this was right there, and it is great. I always say that if it's 8 and above, that's a great film, and I really believe that in this case. So 8.9s across the board. You gotta love it. And go check out A Quiet Place. It's only in theaters, guys. I know it's been a while since you've heard that. You can't stream it anywhere. You have to go see it in theaters, and it's the preferred experience anyway. Let's be honest. Unless some guy's got his ringtone on in front of you, which was the case in our showing. But
we're gonna find you. We're gonna find you.
It's a great experience. One of our favorites to enjoy film with your community. It's a beautiful thing.
And you get to see me in particular. If you ever go to a scary movie or like a thriller, Cam can attest to this. I don't know what you're doing. We sat right next to each other. I don't know if you jump as hard as I jump in those jump scare moments, but I mean, my body elevates every time that it gets me, and it's pretty comical. I can imagine, because I realize it after the fact. I'm like, it got me. It definitely got me. I knew it was coming.
Yep.
Does your body react that way, Cam?
It does. It's not always ultra violent, but I do. I've fallen victim to many a jump scare.
Yeah.
And we should talk pee your pants meter right now before we go any further, because I'm interested to get your thoughts on a scale of 1 to pee your pants, which I guess pee your pants would be a 10 in this instance, right? How scary was this movie for you?
It's difficult. I expected it to be scarier.
Yes.
The tension was really strong. But I wasn't when we got out of the theater, I wasn't looking over my shoulder, right? Sure. Like, that's, even as an adult, I feel like there are movies that do that to me. Like Joker, even though I love that movie, I'm like, just someone
hard to sleep at night after that one.
Pee your pants on Quiet Place 2. I should have prepared for this. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with the 6. I'm gonna go with 6 because, man, there were some good moments where I was bouncing out of my chair.
Yeah, I think, and I just talked about how they were able to maintain the tension even though you've seen the monster, which is true. But I still think, having seen the monster and seen a lot of it, it's hard to stay scared of the monster itself, And so what you're left with is primarily jump scares. They do things beyond, like, creatively, they do things beyond just jump scares, I will say, but it's largely jump scares. And just personally, like, monsters don't scare me. Like, what scares me is like the paranormal or like serial killers. Like,
the devil.
More inclined to be scared of that stuff. Like The Conjuring is a movie that would be high on the pee your pants meter for me, or like Paranormal Activity. Like, those movies always shook me up. The Exorcism, stuff like that. But for this, for me, it was mostly jump scares, and so I'm giving it a 4. Because, again, I didn't feel super scared, but some of those jump scares were still high quality, and it is still very tense. It's just not like soul-crushingly scary,
Yeah, I like how you say that. Obviously, jump scares are easy to rate, to communicate the scariness of a movie, but you're right. In that opening scene when we're back on day 1 and Millicent and John Krasinski, they just need to rewrite that, where they just say just the actors' names. I think they just need to go in and just change the audio. When they're driving away, actually, it's not even that scene. It's when Emily Blunt has the kids in her car and she speeds forward toward the bus, and she has to back that car up, and then you see that hand of that alien just slowly, in complete silence, just slime itself out of there. Man, horrifying, absolutely horrifying. You already are going. You're going full force forward and then full force backward, and then as you're going backward, there's this weird thing, and it is uncomfortable, and it was so good. It was so good. There are many moments like that.
Yeah, they do a great job with the whole, like, what's coming, so it's like, it's not entirely a jump scare. It's like building it up. They're like, here's what's about to happen. Here's what's about to happen. And it's still going to scare the crap out of you when it does. And they do a good job.
Yeah. Like that. When when Millicent's in that, is it a train? Is that what
it's a train car. It's a train car. Yeah.
And she's reaching for, I can't even remember because the scare was so good. She's
first
aid kit.
Yeah.
And she gets it. And I'm like, dude,
You're like, that door didn't open all the way. There's something behind the door. It's going to fall out. There. It's going to scare me. And still it's like, ugh!
And it does. And it's so good. and then she's sitting there, she's catching her breath, nothing. She leans forward, she leans back. All of a sudden, what's there that wasn't there before?
There's the
That
monster.
freaking monster, man.
Yep.
It's all so good.
It's very crafty. So moderate risk of pants peeing, I would say. For those of you who tend to be a little bit more sensitive on the peeing of the pants, this is, be aware, but it's not something. If you're sure of yourself, you don't need to pack the diapers. You'll be all right. You'll be all right.
Yes.
All right, that's our review of A Quiet Place Part 2, a fun one that ended in somehow in Kirk and I having the exact same score, which is pretty shocking. But that was a fun one. Next week we'll be reviewing In the Heights, which, like we said, drops this Thursday on HBO Max and in theaters. So encourage you to check it out so you can be a part of our review next week. It should be a fun one. Other things happening. We've got Loki dropping in, just a few hours as he checks his watch. Just a few hours here. So we'll be checking that out. Spilled Popcorn will be back for you. It'll be on YouTube. I don't know when it'll be on YouTube. In fact, confession time, Kirk. This is embarrassing. I just realized that the final episode of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier Spilled Popcorn is not on YouTube. I never put it up. Released it as a podcast, but never put up the video because I went on vacation that week, and I'm like, wow, what a horrible mistake.
I mean, you shouldn't have. You should have just put it up there, and I would have been like, man, not a lot of views on that. I know,
but it triggers a Discord announcement, so everybody on the Discord is going to know and be like, wow, just now getting around to that. Great job, loser. Which is fair. I am a loser for that, but
no, you're not. No, you're not, because what were you doing? You were going on a beautiful vacation with your wife.
That's fair. Thanks,
that you enjoyed.
I needed that. But anyway, I'll get that posted at some point. But basically what's going to happen is they're doing Wednesday drops, which throws off my whole vibe. I don't like it. Okay. I'm mad about it, but we're moving on. We're pushing forward.
We've written a letter already and no responses, but whatever. No big deal.
We'll persist. Basically, Kirk and I will watch it. We will record the Spilled Popcorn episode probably before you guys hear it in podcast form. So it will likely drop on YouTube before it drops on podcast providers, and it'll drop on podcast providers on Monday. So it'll go Monday will be Spilled Popcorn with the Loki recap. Wednesday will be What's Poppin', as it has been the last few weeks. And then Friday will be Movie Review Friday, as it has been. So we're just sliding Spilled Popcorn back in on Mondays. So if you want to hear our recaps, you can do it on YouTube. You can do it on the podcast on Mondays. All right. Other things happening. We're on TikTok. Guys.
Yes.
At Popcorn for Breakfast. It's not popcorn the number 4. It's actually Popcorn for Breakfast, like our name spelled out. You can... I
was drawing.
Oh, that looks nice. That looks really nice. Kirk haphazardly drew the TikTok logo there. I don't even know if that's the logo. It's just the words TikTok, but it looks good.
Yes, this is their upcoming logo. I am actually their new graphic designer.
You're submitting it. It looks great. I mean, I can see why you got the job. But we are on TikTok, like all the Zennials. We're on there. We're pretending to be younger than we are. And we've already got some content on there. So if you're on the TikToks, and if you spend your nights like me diving down the endless void of TikTok videos until 2 a.m., do that and follow us. It'll be great.
Yes.
We'd love to have you. We'll have all kinds of different and new content on there for you guys to enjoy. What else? I think that's it.
That's all
we got. So very excited about Loki, very excited about In the Heights, very excited to experience both of those things with you guys. But until that time, we are going to give a special thanks to our executive producer, Ryan Spriggs, as well as our original music, which you're hearing right now. It's by the band Rhetoric. Check them out on Spotify and Apple Music. We will see you guys next week.
Talk to you then.